Greetings gamers, Tim here again, and today I wanted to talk about where I am with relation to finishing up on Hearts and Souls 2nd Edition. I'm getting there, but unfortunately a number of factors have delayed getting it finished. Part of it is the more I write about whatever topic I'm writing on, the more I feel I need to write or want to write about said topic, and I've kind of got to cut that down to a limited amount and be concise as possible while still getting the information out. Some of the information is setting based, so that will probably be hoisted off, saved, and used for a setting book at some point, depending on how the Kickstarter goes. Kickstarter has me completely 100% terrified, primarily because I'm not very good at this in terms of picking things to expand upon to give people for signing up, other than the actual product itself. Most of the things people have suggested to me have been a little too expensive to basically add on as backer rewards. So it's been trying to find things I can reward people with for different levels of Kickstarter backing, as well as basically not wanting to go too crazy, because if you go too crazy, the cost of shipping goes up, the cost of the Kickstarter is going to have to go up in order to pay for those rewards as well, since they're not things I have sitting around ready to give people in the first place. But that is kind of where I'm at. I'm kind of trepidatious about Kickstarter, as I said, a little more than trepidatious actually, and I am writing as quickly as I can. Unfortunately, the weather has also been against me because I live and die by the keyboard. I don't write by hand except occasional notes. Basically, the failing of the American education system in trying to shove cursive down my throat actually makes it where I don't want to write at all. I don't write cursive neatly, never have. I don't recall ever having a left-handed teacher in the first place, being that I am left-handed, not right-handed, and the most people are. In addition to that, my printing, while it has gotten very neat over the years, is only neat so long as I'm well rested and happy with what I'm writing. The more I write, the longer I write, the tired I get from writing with my hand, the worse the letters get, and the more I rewrite, so it becomes an endless spiral of trying to get something that looks as neat as something I have typed up instead. So I live and die by the keyboard. So electrical storm, thunderstorm type things mean that I have to shut down and can't write. I can plot out things, by hand, but I don't actually get the actual wording and writing down until I have access to the keyboard. I do have a laptop, which has helped because I can unplug it and write quite a bit and get that done that way. But again, the battery only lasts so long, and thunderstorms can still mess that up if I have to plug it in to recharge it. And despite all the power protections we have in place, surge protections, fuses, etc., etc., a lightning bolt can still take out stuff. I have a friend who recently lost a large number of electronics between him and his roommate because of a nearby lightning strike to their home. And it was just like outside. It wasn't even striking the home itself. It just struck the ground outside, and boom, they lost probably several $1,000s worth of electronics because of that. And that's with all the protections in place, or at least I assume most of them were. Now, other than that, as Hearts and Souls is coming along, I have started working on my wuxia, my kung fu space opera game that is coming along. I've got it, most of the notes, so it's into an alpha stage, so that we can make characters and we can throw some dice around and see if that works. Now, that means it's going to still be a while coming, because it's got to get playtested in alpha, playtested in alpha 2, playtested in beta, playtested in beta again, and then gilded, basically, to be the final form, which is basically filling in the little details of NPCs and setting and all that. But right now, we've just got a barest bare bones of a mechanic and character creation. which is where I usually start. While it's still based on something I've already done, so there's a lot of the character creation stuff there, it still has to be modified heavily to fit the tropes, the cliches, the feel of wushu fiction. Um, I don't ever want to just make a generic game myself and leave it generic for a particular genre, especially when that genre does not always share the exact same requirements for things put into it. When we game, we want the genre to feel right. At least I do. I want it to feel like if I'm playing a game about kung fu space opera, I want it to feel like the kung fu matters. Like it's not just, oh, I hit again. I want it to feel like there's fluidity and motion and action that you don't necessarily get in a lot of games. That doesn't mean I'm going to be perfect. I know there's some games out there that have done that and done it well already. I'm going to be doing my own version, of course, but I want it to feel right to me and then produce that for y'all. So the thunderstorms have been a thing in Texas. It's relatively safe here for the most part because we're only catching the tail end of it because I live so far inland from the coast. But most of the east Texans are being hit really hard right now, and it's not a good thing because, let's be honest, they're never set up for this kind of devastation that's slowly coming forward, and more storms are coming. The fact is we can't really prepare for it because it's been in a drought for 4 years. So, why, you don't ever convince people to spend money to protect themselves when they don't think that thing will ever happen, despite the fact that it does and will happen. Now, that's just a little mini rant of mine. In addition to that, I have been playing quite a few games. I've been running D&D 5th edition quite a bit. I hooked up with some people through meetups online, and we've been enjoying 5th edition a little bit. It's not perfect. It's not as much story as I like, as much plot, fiction in the game. Not as much fiction is flowing out of it as I want. I'm not one of these that I want it to feel like a novel. I just want it to feel interesting and give them a backdrop that makes what they do feel like it matters instead of, oh, another place to go hit a monster. Forgive me, but my throat is very dry. So yeah, we've been doing that, but since not everybody in the meetups group can always meet up, we've alternated it with a Savage Worlds Deadlands game, and I have been enjoying that quite a bit. It's the first time I've gotten to actually sit down and play Savage Worlds, like, more than make a character and roll a few dice. I'm like actually playing, and I'm like having a great time. There's a few disconnects because it is Deadlands Reloaded, and because you've got the generic Savage Worlds rules, and then the Deadlands, basically the expectations of the fiction and the genre of weird horror west don't necessarily connect directly to those mechanics. It creates a hiccup for me because I'm playing a Native American shaman in the Deadlands game, and my character can shapeshift. He has to perform certain rituals to make sure his dice are, all got positive modifiers, there's no negatives to it, and so he can recharge his pool of power points. Well, the problem is, to me, it seems to me like he should perform the ritual in order to get the power in the first place, and that hours of ritual pay into letting him do the shape-shifting without the intermediary of power points. Now, I understand that when you have a generic rule set, you have to come up with a generic way to do that. And while it works, and it works fairly efficiently, I'm actually enjoying how it flows together for the most part. It's a little bit more of a disconnect for me, who likes the mechanics to actually input into the output of the environment of play. I think that's a word I will use, environment, or term I will use, environment of play. The actual fiction that is flowing out from what you're doing. So like when I go do a ritual in game, my character's actually getting the power out of that in game, but it's not a pool of meta points that we're getting and everything. And I know gaming is a different genre than like fiction and everything else, so I know that I have expectations and there are limitations in that. There always are. No matter how story gaming somebody wants to make something, there's still going to be limitations for taking aspect A, your description of what you're doing and what you want your character to do, turning that into mechanics and getting the output fiction that you want. There's a flow there. And I like mine to flow pretty directly, a very short, stout little jump, no, and to flow. Whereas, because Savage Worlds is a generic system and you're adding a genre book on top of that, they don't quite mesh as a smoothly oiled machine as I would like. Now, it's not to say it's bad. Do not mistake me. I'm enjoying Deadlands Reloaded and Savage Worlds a great deal. I think it works very well for what it's doing, which is a generic system tweaked for a genre, as opposed to a genre-specific system that is designed to empower and make everything feel. And on the other hand, it also makes it a lot easier to understand because the mechanics for me using powers and the mechanics for somebody else using powers are fairly similar, with just genre rules on top of that, as opposed to genre rules where you might have to have whole separate mechanics to resolve the situations. And that means more rulebook and more substantial stuff to learn, and so there are good things and bad things about both forms of approach of having a mechanic that is genre applied on the outside as opposed to genre applied on the inside of the game. But I'm enjoying it. I'm having a lot of fun. Our party consists of a bounty hunter, a mercenary, a crazy inventor chick with the biggest gun she could make with her crazy, I don't want to say clockwork because it's not clockwork, but this crazy steam tech stuff that they're doing. So that's where I am. I'm writing. I'm trying to get the writing done. Some of the other games that I had planned to be out by now are in the works, but they're still in those alpha and beta stages that I still need to sit down and play at length, 6 months to a year at least, before I do the final writing and put them out. Hearts and Souls is not. Hearts and Souls is hopefully, cross my fingers, 3 to 5 months away from Kickstarter. And yeah, I know 3 to 5 months is there's a bit of time. I was hoping to have it done by June, and there have been little things that have been holding me back in the writing. The storms have interrupted my writing a little bit, and I haven't been getting some of the art I've already paid for the game in on time. Not necessarily that there was anything they could do about it. Not saying the artist is bad or anything. They were, life happens. I understand this. It happens to me. It happens to them. It happens to everyone. And that's something that not everyone who buys role-playing games understands. It's like, we're people. We're not machines. And sometimes we break down, like machines. But, but sometimes things outside of just our physical processes get involved. Weather, for example, social things, emotional things, and that means that things get delayed. I have a couple of friends in the game writing industry who I've seen that they haven't written for a while, or they haven't written quickly, and it's because they have stuff going on that's not all under their control. I mean, they can't always control what other people do and how that impacts them, or things like having day jobs, because they're not people who are going to make enough money writing to just sit and write. Even with Patreon and Kickstarter and all that stuff, there still has to be a certain balance of life and creativity. So, please keep that in mind for those of us who are slow, that we're slow for a reason. We're not slow because we're trying to keep things out of the hands of people who want it. Honestly, if I could have written this in a month or 2 months, I'm not sure it would have been as good a game in the long run. I wouldn't have thought about all the little tricks and traps and things like banter and monologues and improving them and improving how stress works and all that stuff. If I had kicked it out in a month, might not have been as well play tested or hopefully as well written. Yeah, because if I could turn it out in a month, I'd have done so, believe me. But I didn't, and so that's where we are. Hopefully we're only a little bit of time away, and I'm still 100% terrified of Kickstarter because of Kickstarter and being a lot of work, like a daytime job amount of work. so that I can get out this one game book. So it terrifies me because, you know, that's a lot of work, and I haven't always had the best track record because, you know, of all the things that go on in my life. But I do try. So bless y'all. I'm glad y'all are listening. I just want to let you know I'm alive. I'm still here. I'm still writing. So we'll get there.